Flowering bonsai. There's one really big problem. When you go on to do the work on them, they've got all the flowers on them, and we don't want to do that. But did you know what? There's actually another big problem with flowering bonsai, and I can hear it. It's actually right there. It's a little bumblebee, and he's going to make my life difficult today. So if you want to see how I'm going to approach these flowering Fuji cherries and a couple of other flowering varieties, keep watching. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing 3 different things. See you in a minute. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to our bonsai retreat, and you know what? It's blooming marvellous. The Fuji Cherry, Kojo, Nai, Mai, YY, whatever. I think they're called butterfly flowers, something like that. They're in absolute bloom. They are fantastic. They're normally the earliest of the flowering varieties we have that are favoured for bonsai, apart from our dwarf azaleas, which, well, do you know what? I'm going to tell you a very, very different story. Now, I said there's 3 things I'm going to do with them. The first thing I'm going to do is talk to you about root over rock. That's that one there. The second one, this one. This is a nursery plant to bonsai series. Again, there's loads of these available in your nurseries, and they're not very expensive. Grab one while you can. Or better still, wait till all the flowers have dropped off. I guarantee you'll get yourself a bargain. And then this third one is actually a great big trunk, so it's a lot further on the way. So we've got 3 different stages of different sorts of bonsais, but I'm also going to show you just how versatile they are. All of these, I've got loads of them, were cuttings, great, easy to take. I've even got something like this which just may become a mame. So are we going to have some fun with flowers? Because I've also got some Chinese quince and forsythia, and maybe even a very sorry looking dwarf azalea. So first of all, let's have a look and see what exactly we can do right now. Well, truthfully, my first suggestion is to do absolutely nothing but look at them, enjoy the colours. I mean, even though this is not finished by a long way, it started life as a 3-foot nursery shrub, and it's been successively cut down, chomped, yomped, has become 2 other trees via air layers, and right now this is probably the best flowering bloom it's had since it's been in the bonsai retreat. Now, I could do what I did last year, and this is the first thing you could truly do. Cut all your flowers off and start having a look and cutting back to buds that you want. The problem we've got with Fuji Cherry especially is that sometimes it's very, very difficult to pick the flowering buds from the actual leaf foliage buds, which is why we'll often just let the flowers go. I've got a branch out here. This is all about thickening, by the way. That's why I let it grow out. So what am I going to do with this? Well, truthfully, apart from Mr. Zebra, there is actually a little bit of moss and weed growth and algae, and I'm probably just going to give that a little bit of a clean up. All I need for that is a toothbrush. So while I do that, why don't you enjoy the flower show of this incredible future bonsai. It has such a thick base, really, really great. And again, it's that Scotch moss. Just want to pull these out. And these get great roots that go all under and over, so you really do want to get them out. And this is the algae that's just building up underneath that trunk. And there's a few of you probably saying, oh look, I can see an inverse taper in your trunk. Just there. Well, I don't care. And then we just, again, clean it there. So what we don't encourage is rotting in any way, shape or form. This root here, that may actually eventually get removed, but at the moment what I find it does is, because I know I've got this inverse taper here, by putting this out here it almost gives the optical illusion of this being a much wider base. So again, this root could leave. I could end up taking away a few of these roots. So anyway, let me just keep taking these out, and maybe I might even let you enjoy some pictures of our much loved British bumblebees, which apparently they report are becoming a bit of an endangered species. Certainly not in the bonsai retreat, they're not. They're all over the place. So that's all nicely clean. Now I will interject here. The last couple of years you've actually seen me working on a lot of my flowering bonsai quite early in the season, and happy to sacrifice the flowering. It's because I wanted to get them into new pots. We're going to see that with one of these in a moment. Can I do anything at all? Well, I can actually. We have got some issues here we can resolve. I'm not going to want this one here, so we'll cut that. And again, all these flowering buds that are not going to be part of your design, we can get rid of them now. We've also got an issue just here, where we've got something that's drooping down. Looking further here, we've got lovely flowers here, but we don't actually want this here, so we'll probably go back to there. Just cut that one back. Look, just here we've got this junction coming up here. We've actually got one that's going back, so we want to remove that. And when I talk about cutting, something like that is absolutely perfect, so we've got some water for that. We've got a bud there we don't really want. We can get rid of that flowering bud. So then we look, we've got this junction coming up here. We've actually got a really nice branch here I like. Then it comes further up here and here. I don't need to do too much right now, but from here it also divides to this lovely pad which creates loads of flowers, and we've got this little one off here which goes across the front. And that one most definitely going to get rid of. So those flowers have gone. So that is something you most definitely can do, because by this stage we already know where all our flowers are. We've actually got this coming up quite high. I like the way it's dribbling down, but I'm just going to take that top one out so they're just nicely developed down. Lovely flowers coming down. We've got up here. This one's actually coming upwards. I'm going to cut that one back now. Got a dead stub there, we'll get rid of that. We've got this arrangement here. I don't rightly know what I'm going to do with that yet, so I'll leave it. And then again, I'm just going to work my way around. There's so many flowers. I've never had quite so many flowers coming out on these. This one here, that's going right across, so we don't want that. Lovely flowers there. And then I suppose we look at this. Has it already served its purpose? And I think the answer is yes. Mainly because I think that is going to make a brilliant cutting for you to see next year. So looking at the length, probably need to bring it right back to there. And even that's probably a little bit too far out. So we've got this lovely great big cutting, and chuck this in some soil. I will take the flowers off though first. And I'm going to continue to go round. Here's another example. And this is another one of those three from a junction. It's going upwards, so we don't want that. Remove that. And it's amazing, once you start to neaten these up, they look beautiful. Another one here from the junction. Okay, well, I've cleaned it up, and what I have noticed is there are going to be some things that we're going to want to sort out in a few weeks' time. If we look here, we've got this very, very long branch here. That's going to have to come right back. We've actually got a bud here. It's got some stuff in the junction we don't want. Got some healing going on here. But overall, you know, I really like this, and best thing about it, everything to do with this is down to me. And obviously the tree had a little bit to do with it as well. So potentially room for a different potting angle. This needs to come back a bit, but as I say, if it wasn't for this big root structure here, I'd potentially have a front somewhere nearer in there. And again, when I go from an next repot, which isn't going to be a few years yet, I may well actually have a look at that root structure and see how it's developed beneath that to allow me to remove stuff. So there's only one other thing I really want to do with this right now. It's use loads of energy on those flowers. So I've just got some general fertilizer stuff, which is, I think it's a 7:7 ratio. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and the other thing, PNK, potassium. No, potassium, nitrogen, and phosphorus. I don't know, something like that. Worst thing about Fuji Cherry, once those flowers drop, the leaves really do crisp up. I try to keep these out of the sun as much as possible to at least try and keep some green leafery on it. Now, the other way you can enjoy these brilliant flowering species is to do something a little bit unusual with them. And you know how much I love my Root on Rock projects. I've got about 10, 11 on the go. Loads of videos in the playlist, see that in the description. But this one I actually had a little bit of a dig around last year. You can see actually there's the old, what's that stuff called? What's that stuff called? Wrap it in raffia. Just forgot what that stuff was called. Yeah, I wrapped this in raffia just to continue to secure it around the rock, and we've had this around here for another year now. Does that mean I'm going to reveal and unravel it now? Probably not, but what I am going to do is just, I'll put lots of moss on there, is just have a little dig about and just see, one, let's get rid of some of these weeds, but just see whether or not it is actually on that rock, and it certainly feels like it is. But I think, and I know this is something for Root and Rock videos, be patient. Whatever you're doing, if you're looking at those roots to grip something, curb back your excitement and your desire to see if it's working at least a couple of years. It's hard, that's why I do so many of them, so I've got something to look forward to each year. Anyway, all I'm going to do with this is, again, same as I've done with the other one, weed it, make sure that we haven't got any rot taking place anywhere that I don't want it. It's all that sphagnum, but I'll get that off now, and should we then have a little look at the roots anyway, a little peekaboo. And yeah, I haven't given it a bit of a spin. I've trimmed it a little bit, but I don't want to trim it too much because I actually want a lot of growth happening. The more growth up there, the more root growth we'll get down there. So it's on reasonably. I know that there's a couple of really strong roots gripping there, but what I need this one to do, this is one of the ones where there isn't as many crevices in there. You're actually looking at the age of the tree to be the thing that ultimately grips the rock. But I think it looks pretty good on that rock, and again, this is the thing, just because you see people doing it with trident maples or Chinese elms or junipers, don't be limited just because you think the species of the tree isn't what you generally see as the root of the rock. This, one day, in a beautiful ceramic with lovely flowers, with this great big exposed rock, is going to look fantastic. Just takes a bit of time. So the first one was a 3-foot shrub, which I basically dug up, Yamadori-ish, cut it down, did air layers off of it, used it as a feeder for lots of other trees. The second one, I decided to put it onto a rock. I do something interesting with the way I planted it. And this third one was straightforward, as I advise everyone to do who's starting. Go out into the nurseries, find yourself. Now, in this instance, this was actually a 3-foot shrub, nowhere near as thick, but it was definitely 3 foot. And I've done 2 videos on this. And the first thing I did was to cut it from 3 foot to 1 foot. And again, if you follow the series, you have a look at the link in the description, you'll see how this is developed. Now, this is a flower fest. It looks absolutely brilliant right now. And this is how something like this will always look at its best. Not sure about the elephant, but he's there anyway. And we've got all these lovely flowers. And right now, I just want them to enjoy, because this, again, needs to get a really, really big flush of nice green vegetative growth so that we can actually start, one, healing some of the wounds there. One of the ways might be to actually put it back into a nursery bed, because to get that sort of healing I need to get really long 1, 2, 3 foot growth from those shoots. And going by the growth pattern of the Fuji in the pots, that may not actually happen. So again, be ready to amend your plans depending on what you're seeing up here, because right now that wound is actually pretty ugly and it's going to be pretty difficult to disguise or hide, apart from when it's in flower. So this one, I really am going to do nothing more than enjoy it, fertilise it, and wait and see how it looks in probably 4 weeks time, and then perhaps decide if I need to do anything much to it. Yes, I can see in close there's 2s, 3s, 4s from the same point, but this is flowering growth. That's certainly not going to create any issues with inverse taper or anything like that. It's a slow process, but if you don't start, you're never going to finish. That's pretty profound, isn't it, really? Right, so what else can I do with my Fuji? Well, cuttings. You've seen me take 3. Let's have a look and see how they look a couple of years on, shall we? Now, these are all cuttings, probably from that original Fuji Cherry bush. Rules for cuttings, exactly the same. Whenever I'm doing some pruning, I'll dip stuff in soil. These are probably, I think that one's probably now nearer 5, 6 years old, that cutting. This is probably 3 years, 3 years. They reach a point, they can be quite a slow grower sometimes, and certainly that one I think was a 2-year cutting. And I've got a load of smaller ones in there, but they're nothing much to talk home about. So cuttings, you want cuttings like this, and let's be honest, Fuji Cherry's beautiful, even if you don't make a bonsai out of it. Have these around your back door or your front door, and they can be pretty impressive. So how do I do it? Glad you asked. Well, it's straightforward. You need an overgrown bush. You need a cup, preferably plastic. It's got water in it. Inside that water, you put the clippings from your overgrown bush. Be careful. And then, all you do, taking your scissors, which of course you've dipped in rubbing alcohol or something to make sure that they are absolutely pristine and clean and don't pass on any nasty bacteria to your bush. And then, we do as usual, we remove all these lovely flowers because they're not going to be much good. And at an appropriate point, probably I like this, I may well go there so I can get 2 cuttings. These are the flowers. We don't want the flowers. Cut the flowers off. Then dip your cutting in some cut paste, in some rooting hormone, and I push it down about half a length. I mean, this is what you would call certainly a hardwood cutting, so it's been growing for a year. It's nice and solid, but I find I get pretty good results from those. And I've actually just put it into some standard ericaceous potting compost. Just need to do the rest, and we'll see how they look in another year. And then all you need to do is basically I put these have been sitting down the bottom of the garden most times, no special treatment to them. I also don't often use rooting hormone, bit extra, why not? Now this year I'm actually going to put some of the stuff that I really want to have success in a propagator, which for me just sitting near the back here so I can keep an eye on it and just see if this is as good as the yellow plastic bag. There you go. So that's the cuttings. We'll see what they're like in 2026, shall we? Even if they don't work. And of course, one of the major problems that you have with trying to do a generic flowering bonsai video is they never all flower at the same time. The forsythia are one though that flower nice and earlier, and though this is still relatively small, that was a cutting from, well, one you're going to see in a minute. And all you can do with things like that is, do you know what, let them continue to develop, remove imperfections as you go along. That's old nubs, parts that have died off, just bits that you don't want. Probably don't want that, but in fact we definitely don't want that. Probably don't want that either. And the good thing about forsythia is they bud back really well and they have beautiful yellow flowers. The other problem is that often they've already flowered, and I talked about my dwarf azalea. These have sort of gone through the wars, to be honest, and you've seen me doing multiple repots, and of all the species that have seemed to struggle a little bit of late, in fact they've struggled since I started doing YouTube, which probably says a lot. It's these dwarf azaleas, which really nice thick trunks on them. There's probably the videos you see in 2022 show them at their best, and but their flowers have already died. What can you do? Get the flowers off, get the weeds out, feed them up, and I know they were repotted a year ago. What I'll do is make sure that they get every opportunity to get lots of vigour and energy. Probably need to put some Epsom salts on there. That's just to help with the yellowing of the leaves. So I'll do that now as well. But where did that come from? That was originally a cutting from this very small, well, I've tried to do a show-in stroke, I don't know, Marmee, getting on for 9-10 inches tall, so I suppose it probably comes into the show-in phase. This used to have branches out this way, and again, over the last 3 years, if you watch in some previous videos, you'll see how it slowly had to be reduced back as different branches die off. And I think that's one of the things you have to accept sometimes, keeping garden shrubs in small environments like this. You know, they'll cast off stuff they don't want. But flowers haven't actually come out on this one yet, so again I'll weed it, feed it, and enjoy it. And funny enough, I will say this now, I find at different times of the year, mind, that weeding can be very relaxing. Probably not the most exciting thing to watch though, so shall we skip on ahead and find out what the problem is with this lovely Fuji cherry. Zab, there are so many beautiful flowers on this, how could you possibly say there's a problem? Well, if you look at it from that angle, you might get a better feeling for what the problem is. Again here, nothing on this side, and it's all leaning towards. Now this was actually one of the air layers that was taken off that original big 3-foot thick one that you saw to begin with. The other one's down the bottom of the garden, not so well, so we'll leave it there to recover. You know, when you've got a bad cough, the last thing you want is people coming in and prodding you and seeing how you are. That's one of those ones that we'll leave it alone for another year. So the answer to that? Well, this is one time when I'm not bothered about the flowers. Flowers for this can all come off because this is going to get repotted at a much better angle. The final problem with the flowering varieties is if they're later flowering, and these are Satsuki azaleas, lovely pink blooms on them, and they don't flower till June, July in my garden, which brings me on to the very next thing that I love to do right now with some of my flowering stuff. Cut the flowers off and decide that maybe they need a different potting angle entirely, because this one too has a bit of an issue, and I'm thinking of trying something just a little bit different with it. So we're going to move straight from flowering into repotting and have a look and see what they're like. Now, I'm not going to take you through the big repotting sequence because I've done loads of repotting already in 2025. Again, if you look in the description, there's a playlist all about repots, but we'll have a quick chat about them and then we'll show you how they look at the end. In fact, before you get to see how those or that one repot went on, and in fact I did another one which is a bit of a surprise. Of course, I mentioned the quince, the Japanese quince. I think I called it Chinese quince, but these two, normally they open up a little bit earlier, but we've got the lovely yellow flowers opening up on these. I had a beautiful red one as well, but Dawn Isaac, my favourite ceramicist, decided to have that one off me in exchange for a standard quince. But again, with this one, all you want to be looking at this time of the year is the same thing. I'm happy to let a lot of these branches grow out. I want this one to put on lots of energy, lots of strength. There's only really a few things I want to do here. Is a little bit of cleaning up of stubs. Got lots of little new shoots coming there, so let's just take those back. I'd like the stubs, I'd like the shoots that are a lot closer in to be coming out, so let's take it back to there. Same here, we've got the flowers, happy to leave the flowers, let's just take that back. In fact, there's actually buds here, so what I really want to do is take that right back. These flowers, I'm going to let them open up, they're going to come over the front, but I won't want them, and I'm just going to go around and clean this up basically. Here, that's probably going to be the front here, which means I can have this back branch. I want it to come out lower, and you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing a standard pruning for future ramification branch building. You don't want any of that there, or that there. We need that one there. just take that one up there. Probably, I mean, we're looking at it coming up here. This may end up going, to be fair, which means we really don't want any of that. So we'll take it all off. So you see me doing some light pruning on that. Really have pulled it back a lot. I could have pulled it back even further. These will bud back really, really readily. Shame the flowers are probably on the back of the tree. But it's an interesting, definitely an interesting design, and when you find these in garden centres, you'll often find them, they've got all these branches and stuff coming out from the base. Have a look, amazing what you can make with them. Anyway, do you want to have a look and see how I repotted the Fuji Cherry before we finish things off? And there we go. You're probably not seeing a big difference, but the main aim was to actually straighten it up. This was indeed, as I say, an air layer, and there was quite a reasonable healthy root structure on it. What I want to try and do is probably bring it so it creates a nice sort of canopy there and a canopy over here. Again, the whole aim with these is to see them when they're in flower, and I think the rest of the year you put them in the corner. Don't know, front there or front there? You tell me. This was just one of my cuttings. I've just lent it further over so I can start developing that as a cascade. I'm sure Mr. Zebra is going to be happy with it. But you know what? The real big change? Do you remember I showed you that forsythia? Very, very thin, but lots of yellow blooms on it. Well, honestly, did you really think I was going to leave it like that? There it is. It's a little marmay forsythia. And to be honest, it's a good thing I took it out of that pot, because forsythia put on absolutely tons of roots. Interesting to see how this develops. I'm hoping we'll get lots of back budding a lot lower down. But do you want to see how many roots there were? That was the pot it was originally in, and that are all the roots that came off it. So beware, never leave stuff in pots too long. You just don't know how much root growth there's going to be. And if I'd left that another year, that may well have ended up to its destruction. Whereas this way, I can control its destruction. So that was a pretty whistle-stop tour through what I'll be doing with my flowering bonsai this time of year. And we'll say right now it's about the 20th of March, and I enjoy the blooms. Some years just enjoy the blooms, do nothing else but weed, make sure the moss doesn't build up, a few craggy branches, but basically look at those, enjoy them with a cup of coffee. That is gorgeous. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that, and all I can do is encourage you, find those flowering shrubs, forsythia, Fuji, particularly in your nursery centres, and of course the dwarf azaleas, all readily available, all pretty cheap, and all so easy to develop as bonsai. Apart from that, that is a classic video to see more flowering bonsai. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.